Hello. Hi there. Uh, this is our first kind of YouTube Live. I'm Rob. I'm the CEO of Kindaba. Lizzie is on the keys. She would have joined us, but she's at Web Summit right now. And so uh, internet there isn't so isn't so great. So Lizzie will be typing and here for the next several minutes. So happy to answer any questions that anyone has. But I thought I'd start with some questions that we've been sent already. So yeah, hey there, hi there. Um, just to start off with, before I kind of get to some of these meaty ones, to give people any time to join. Kindaba is a private communication platform for your family. It's a private communication tool for your family. We've been running for about a year and a half now. It's basically for those of you who find Facebook not great for privacy when talking to your family, and WhatsApp just way too noisy. So what's really important to us are the intergenerational communication that's going on. So how are you sharing things with your grandparents or your parents? How are people's privacy being respected, especially in this day and age when it's a real challenge to make sure that you understand who's in control of your data. So Kindaba is a ad-free. We don't sell your data, and it's also free to use. So that's the product. Right now, we have several thousand users all over the world using Kindaba, our proof of concept, and we're getting ready to launch like our big launch product at the end of the month. So we're pretty excited about this, and we're also crowdfunding. So our crowdfund's in the end of its first week, a few days into its second week, and throughout November. We're doing crowdfunding for a bunch of different reasons. Mostly it's to let a lot of our current users, but also potentially future users, share in our success and share in the direction that we're taking the company. We had different options in terms of trying to seek other forms of funding, but we thought that we would try and open up at least a part of our current funding round to anybody and to the most amount of people as possible. So if you just joined us, just feel free to write any questions that you might have. I'm going to start with answering a couple that had come in before. So let's see. How much does it cost you to acquire a user? Right. Okay, we'll start with that one. So acquiring a user is also called customer acquisition cost, and it's really important when you're looking to estimate, how hard it's going to be to bring in users. A lot of people, I think, assume that you might build something and then everybody will join, everybody will use it, and that's obviously not the case. So it's important to have a really good understanding of a customer acquisition cost before you start all of that process. So we're not naive in thinking that our customer acquisition cost is zero, but there are a couple of different elements that go into the way that we're thinking about customer acquisition. So there are two main aspects. One is the kind of top of the funnel stuff. So advertising, content marketing, awareness campaign, PR, things like that. And then there's also onboarding. So that's the experience of the application and making sure that the virality of it is really high. So when I say virality, I mean, if we get you onto Kindaba, how many people are you bringing along with you? So that number is really important. And it doesn't really make sense to start doing heavy advertising unless your viral coefficient, that virality number, is pretty high. So that's how we think about it, that there are two elements of customer acquisition. In the early days, we're focusing mostly on just the onboarding element. So we want to make sure we want to maximize the amount of people that people come and they bring on, so that when we do start doing things like advertising, we're being more efficient with that conversion cost. It's not to say we haven't explored that. We've done a lot of customer acquisition cost experiments. So that's digital advertising. We've also done a lot of content creation. So writing blog posts about different subjects and then watching which ones perform well. And our acquisition strategy, our customer acquisition strategy, is mostly content-based and awareness-building based in the first 6 months. And a large part of this raise is actually going towards starting that happening. On the virality side, we're aiming for an N+5. That means that you coming onto Kindaba, you would bring 5 people with you. We're aiming for an N+5 by September. A few months ago, we were at an N+0.77, and now we're at an N+2. So we're making pretty good headway along that front. But in terms of the actual customer acquisition cost, we're estimating that it's about £10 per user to acquire. And that doesn't take into account a viral coefficient. So let's say it cost us £10, but our viral coefficient was 5. You're looking then at a net customer acquisition cost of 1.6. So that's how we think about customer acquisition. Hopefully that was helpful and not too wonky for you. Right, let's see. What is Kindaba's monthly user growth rate? So right now we're still in invite-only alpha. We've launched a couple of different proofs of concept, and we have a pretty active beta alpha community. And so the way that we grow has been very organic. That's not to say that we haven't been growing. We've been growing still quite a lot, even though we've closed the doors for new organic signups. In the past 12 months, what does that look like? In the past 12 months, we've increased our weekly active user rate. So that means the amount of people that are active every week. We've increased that 9.46% week on week. So that kind of tells you how we're focusing on it. It doesn't really matter to us about how many people sign up. And it also doesn't really matter to us about how many people have been seen in the last 60 days. It also doesn't matter to us right now about how many people we see per day. What's important to us is like the weekly active rate and then the retention metrics. So like how many people who have signed up are then seen on day 7 and how many people who sign up are seen on day 30. We need to try and maximize or minimize the difference between those two numbers. So yeah, that's our user growth rate. Let's see. Our current cash burn is about £17,000 per month on average, and that's split between a team of 8. We're looking to increase that next year when we bring on up to about 4 new members of the team. When will you need to raise again? So have you got an idea of what the valuation will be at that time? And how can I ensure that I don't get too diluted? That is a good question. So there's 2 questions there. In terms of when we would need to raise again, this current raise will give us between 12 and 18 months of runway. And it's important that we don't raise too soon because we need to hit certain types of KPIs. We know we need enough time in order to make those, and probably mess up along the way on the route to getting those. But these KPIs are very reasonable and well within our reach to get. So that's 100,000 active users by September, October, and that's when we'll be able to be in a really good position to go for like Series A. In terms of what that looks like, we're expecting between a 5 to 7 million Series A or 6 to 8 million at a valuation of between 20 and 22 million pounds. In terms of dilution and shares, the shares that you'd be getting as part of Kindaba, as part of investing in Kindaba, they're exactly the same kind of shares that I have, that Lizzie has, that the rest of the team has. So dilution is always a concern. We don't have any kind of protected shares. The founders don't. None of our investors don't. Our lead investor doesn't. But what we do try and do is, where possible, offer what's called pro rata rights. So the ability to be guaranteed to take part in a future round so that you can maintain your percentage. So we try and do that as much as we can. Right. So what kind of feedback are we getting so far? In terms of the product, great feedback. A lot of people are coming to us that are really feeling this pain. So for us, there are two big elements. One is privacy, right? Every day in the news, you're hearing stories about data breaches and companies doing weird things with their data. And just the other day, we heard about Google Plus shutting down because of a potential breach. Google still hasn't emailed users telling them about that. I mean, what's like that? This is what we've kind of come to expect from large incumbents. And a lot of the problem is that a lot of these networks, a lot of these services are driven by ad revenue. And in order for you to have really good ad revenue, you need to know your customers, which makes sense, right? So it's no surprise that Facebook wants to do all it can to know about you and to understand about you so that it can sell that data for people who want to provide advertisements. So we just think of it differently. And one of the big things we wanted to test is, do other people actually want this or not? And luckily, it seems like they do. And our wait list is into the thousands. Our growth rates are really healthy. So we're really excited about the opportunity to build this. And our users right now know that we're early, and this is early. This is kind of the exciting stage, and love finding bugs and giving us feedback. And all that feedback is directly put into the decision-making process about what to build next. And so we're very fortunate to have like a very committed and very vocal user base. Let me see what some other questions. I'll just kind of go through these. Does Gareth Williams and others mentioned in deck have any preferential terms, shares, or board seats? Nope. Gareth, our lead investor, is taking part in the round in the same way that everyone else is on Crowdcube. We don't have any special or preferred terms for anyone taking part in the crowdfunding round, aside from the different demarcation of shares. So B shares or A shares in terms of voting rights, depending on how much you're choosing to invest. But no preferential treatment. Let's see. At what level would you consider a board seat? Is there a minimum investment? We don't consider investment when it comes to looking at board seats. We consider the type of person that we need for the board. We do have a board of advisors that we are certainly happy to explore membership on. But in terms of board of directors, that's done by a needs-based and not by an investment-based. So nobody that has invested so far has any right to a board seat. And we're going through the process right now of identifying really good candidates for our board of directors, but that won't be based off of investment. It will be based off of experience in our space. It'll be based off of access to larger access or experience dealing with larger funding rounds later on, and then also operationally, how to grow the team effectively, and then growth, like how best to engage with customers. So those are what we look for our board seats. There's no kind of minimum investment. Right. Need to raise again. Where will you raise your next round of investment? I'll go to this one first. What's next on your product roadmap? Is there a way for Crowdcube investors to download and use the app if you are invite only? Right. So your minimum investment of £10 will get you early access to our app, and we're going to have that ready to go in a few weeks. Right now, we do have a proof of concept app out. It does look quite different than what we're developing. So if you really want to see like the bleeding edge, bleeding early stages, you can get in touch and we can do something for you. But in terms of what's on our product roadmap, so the product looks like a mosaic experience. There's lots of tiles, and we found that this was a much better way of engaging people, especially people who don't post a lot. It's a great way for them to experience the content that other family members will be posting, a lot more. So the mosaic allows us to do a bunch of cool things with what people are choosing to share, right? So right now you can do photos, you can do videos, and like text posts, and then pretty soon you'll also be able to post milestones. So whether it's about you or whether it's about a child, you'll be able to start discussions. So around posts, things, anything from talking about, little Jimmy's new tooth to planning a trip for your family overseas, right? We're making it as flexible as we can, but what's most important to us is also making it as simple as possible so that it's not confusing. In terms of like cool things that we're working on flight tracking, so that will be coming up in the not too distant future. So you'll be able to put in your flight and watch a cool little map and monitor where your family is if they're all coming into town for Christmas or a holiday. As I say, we're looking at milestones. We're also looking at different ways of engaging, like of communicating, whether that's through video or audio, messages, and a bunch of other cool things that we're not quite ready to lift the lid on. But yeah, it's there's pretty cool stuff that we're working on. How do I get an invite? So invest. Oh, sorry, let me read this. Lizzie's answering some of my questions for me, so that's okay. So if I invested £10 today, I will get access to the new version, even if the round isn't closed yet. Even if the round isn't closed yet. If you invest £10 today, you will get access to the new version as soon as it's ready, and as soon as we're ready for you. You'll be the first. Nobody else will get access to it before you. So as soon as we are ready for it to be ready, you will get access to it. And that's just for £10. We have other kinds of rewards. So for I think for £100, let me raise it up. Let me get it up so that I'm not speaking out of turn. But we are. Let's see. What other kinds of fancy things? Oh, I'm not even logged. Sorry, guys. We'll get in a moment. So for £100, you're going to get a T-shirt, which is pretty cool, and it'll have early backer on the back. These are limited edition, really nice feeling. It's the company that American Apparel has become. It's that kind of fabric. They're not called American Apparel anymore. So yeah, your £10 will get you the golden ticket. Your £100 will get you this mosaic T-shirt. For £1,000, we're partnering with this really cool organization called Power a Life. They're friends of ours, and they make charging bricks and cables that when you buy it, you're also funding a solar light in Africa. So invest $1,000+ and you'll get one of those, and you'll be funding a solar light in Africa. For £10,000, you'll get premium access for life. So one of our ways of making money will be to introduce certain premium features. You'll get access to our main kind of premium features for life. So that's pretty cool. For $25K, we will take you out to dinner at a very fancy restaurant, at least fancy by my standards, called The Kitchen over here in Leith. And then for £100,000, for the small sum of £100,000, you will you and another person will be taken on a hot air balloon ride, and then followed by a nice meal with us that we can find out all about the adventure that you no doubt had. So those are our rewards. Aside from obviously having shares in Kindaba and being part of that, we have a very active investor platform where we communicate a lot. Every month, all of our shareholders get updates, and we have regular calls and opportunities to chat as well. Right. So, seeing as you don't rely upon ads, how do you plan to generate revenue? Good question. It's magic. No, just kidding. So the way that we're going to be looking at revenue, there are three main ways. Advertising, by the way, is something that rarely works, especially in like the social space. And while we're not a social, like a traditional social network, we're still playing in that space. So ads may sound like they're effective, but they're not for two key reasons. One is the privacy challenge. But two, ads don't actually get you a lot of revenue unless you control the whole ad platform and you have a huge amount of volume. So unless you're Facebook, it's actually really hard to run an ad-driven app. So from a kind of privacy perspective, but also as a business perspective, we're going for revenue streams that actually are a lot more healthy and a lot more attractive for making money. So those three revenue streams, the first is physical products, so gifting. So let's say you wanted to order a photo book for your grandma. You'd be able to do that in 2 taps, and obviously we'd make a little bit off of that. Really good margins, pretty easy to understand. It's a really healthy market for personalized gifts. Second stream is premium features, as I mentioned earlier. So that might be extra storage space, kind of like what iCloud Photos and Google Photos do. And then also kids focused in-app purchases. So kids activities, and other kinds of more niche type of premium add-on products, but the core platform will always be free. And then the third is affiliates. So that might look like if you shared a book that you're reading, and then I eventually went and bought that book off of Amazon, we would get a small amount from that sale. In another way, let's say there was a company that or a tile that allowed you to plan a trip with your family, and you could book travel tickets through the tile. We would then get a little bit off of that as well. So those are the 3 main revenue streams that we're focused on. Let me go back to the list. We have a few more minutes. Let's see. What is your plan for making your key hires? Do you have people earmarked for certain positions, and have you approached them? We have some people earmarked for certain positions, especially on the growth side. That's a really important aspect for any early stage company, especially in the consumer space. But so far, our advisors have been key resources. So these are people that we talk with all the time. So people from in leadership positions, either current or former, from places like Travel Nest, from FanDuel, from Skyscanner, from Twitter, from Facebook. We talk to these people quite often, and they're the ones that are also helping guide us in terms of what it is that we need, but also after going through like a skills gap analysis, helping us to understand what kind of talent we need to focus on. So we have some of these people earmarked, and some of them we don't yet. Let me see. Where will you raise your next round of investment from, and when will this be? So earlier I said it's between 12 and 18 months. We're looking to do our next raise. We'd obviously would love to open up a part of the round to the crowd again, because we want people to be, we want to open up our success to as many people as we can as and when we go through it. But in terms of where are we going to probably be looking in terms for the larger amount of the raise, it's probably going to be on the west coast of the U.S., New York, or in London. That's where we're most likely going to be, and those are the places that we're talking to, engaging with the kind of Series A type investors so far. So it'll probably come from one of those places. Let me go up. So I think, what will you do if you don't successfully close this round? Good question, right? So the life of So first off, would you open up to the crowd again? Absolutely, we would. A lot of really cool companies have done this over multiple rounds. GoHenry, Monzo, to just name a few. These are kinds of companies that are also that you can also identify with as really good to their customers, really good to their users. Monzo is a really great example of that. Just amazing levels of community engagement and community support that they have. So it's natural that one of their key strengths are their users. So why not reward those users and help bring them along with the journey? So we definitely would love to be able to do that if at all possible. So what would you do if you don't successfully close the round? It's a really great question. As an early stage startup, you are constantly having to juggle getting the product ready, trying to make sure that you make payroll this month, and then planning for the future. And it requires a lot of pivots in thinking, sometimes multiple times a day. So luckily, we have quite a few different options for both raising and for funding going forward. The crowd would just allow us to do it quicker and to get to our objectives a lot quicker, and also bring along a lot more people and expose us to potentially new partners, potentially new hires, and of course new users as well. So we're not going anywhere, but of course we'd love to include the crowd if possible. So I think that's it. I think that's all the questions, and that was 26 minutes, and I have a tendency to ramble, so I feel pretty proud of being able to get through all those in time. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. All of our information should be on the crowdfunding page, so it's crowdcube.com/Kindaba. Or you can just go to kindaba.com, and there's a big banner up at the top. That'll get you there as well. If you have any questions, please get in touch. Otherwise, we'll probably do this again, I think tonight. So if you have any questions between now and then, get them ready or send them through. Thanks.